What's up, everybody? It's your boy Nick Magnet here,
And I'm Cherie Magnet.
and this is
Team
Team
Magnet
Magnet TV. Ah. So today we got a pretty cool topic for you guys. We're gonna talk about Arrow, actually, Arrow season 6, episode 14. Now, for those of you all who may not know, probably none of you at this point, Arrow is actually one of my favorite DC TV shows slash like superhero shows that actually has come out. So this video is going to be about a show I really enjoy watching, but I wanted to kind of speak on an episode that we recently saw that had a lot of content, a lot of information that we're going to review here. And this one in particular was just so dramatic, I want to say, and intense that we just had to talk about it. So let's kind of get into it. So basically, this whole episode just centered around basically the follow up of what happened with Cade and James, and how there was he had basically forced Oliver to give away all this money, and the city is now out of was it $70 million now? Is that right? Okay. So basically, Cade and James ended up getting murdered in the last episode, and basically Oliver ended up finding out about it by one of his associates in his building, and it was some random Asian lady we had never seen before.
It was a police captain.
Was that the police? Was that a police captain?
She was the one that was basically telling him like, oh, something happened while he was being transported or something. Try to make it seem as if it was something that was kind of like an inside, when we all know from the last episode that it was what is his name, Richard Dragon or whatever, that basically had killed
Ricardo Diaz. Richard Dragon. Yeah.
So the whole objective of this whole episode is to get the funds back that Oliver had to basically give to Cade and James so he wouldn't like destroy the city, which was a $70 million, so that they would have the funds for the city. So that was the whole objective for the whole episode, and they had this whole meeting with Oliver, with all of them saying we need to get this money back from Cade and James. So that was the whole thing. They're trying to like figure out how they're going to get this money. So Oliver basically told them, as the mayor, he said, give me like 48 hours to get the money together. So that was the whole objective. And I keep saying that for a reason.
Right. Well, and the way that she was trying to make it seem, like, it was so random that Cade and James had gotten murdered. Right. I mean, obviously,
we knew it wasn't.
Obviously, it wasn't random. And why would Oliver even believe that it was random? That's just silly.
Right.
So, going forward, I was kind of just having some observations, and I just want to say, like, and she'd even admitted to, Dinah Drake is really pretty.
She's pretty.
But here's the thing. She was like so much more annoying than she was pretty this episode.
Yeah.
Like, she just walked in with a chip on her shoulder. Like, she's carrying on that same drama from the last couple episodes. Now I get it. That was her man. We're talking about Vigilante at this point. Mm-hmm. And he was killed by Black Siren. She has every right to be upset about that. But it's almost to the point where she's just losing touch with reality and everything that's going on. Like, it's just, it's getting ridiculous.
And she's losing focus as well. Again, like I keep saying, the whole objective of this episode was to get the funds. She's focused so much on her revenge. She's not even worried about the funds in the city, like, dying because they don't have the $70 million. And Oliver's basically trying to tell her, like, I'm worried about getting the money. You're worried about trying to kill Laurel. So, yeah.
Basically. So, kind of going forward, there was a meeting that was going on in the Terrific Cave / Canary Cave. I don't know what you want to call it. I would say Terrific Cave, since he's like basically the Felicity of their group.
Yeah.
But basically things were obviously getting a little bit tense with Dinah still kind of like on the rampage and still showing her lust for vengeance against Laurel at this point. And even Wild Dog and Mr. Terrific are looking at each other like, what's up with her? Like, this is not right.
Yeah.
Because they know that she's driven by, basically her anger at that point, and she's not seeing clearly, kind of like how Cherie said here. So I mean, that was very evident with the conversation that they were having in the cave, when the objective is to recover the money for the city, and Dinah was more hell bent on just basically killing Laurel.
Yeah, and then even like Mr. Terrific basically said, like, to Mad Dog, like, are you okay with this?
Wow.
Like, Wall Dog. I'm sorry.
You thinking Fresh Prince?
I am. Sorry, but yeah, he was basically saying to him like, are you okay with this? Like, this is a problem. And then like, Wall Dog was like, oh, we'll just like we'll talk to her about that later after we figure out what's going on with this money. But I'm like, at the end of the day, y'all should have been talked to her about this, because clearly this is not like something that just happened in this episode. It's something that's been happening in like some other episodes as well. So I'm like, they should have been had that talk with her about that. So I mean, them waiting to talk about it, I didn't understand that. So yeah.
So in kind of going forward, so another scene, Oliver's in his office and he's kind of having a mini debate slash argument with Dinah, and you can still see this whole dynamic of her being driven by her vengeance. Again, I just want to say this: it's annoying, but it's also a good character dynamic to show the I guess like the switch up in the character, because before, a lot of people are probably looking at this video and they're like, yeah, Dinah was annoying, and she really was. But I think one thing that you got to kind of realize here was all of you all in season 5 or towards the end of season 5, or towards the end of season 5 were saying, hey, Dinah is just boring because we want more. We want to see her do something. Like, we don't know if she's going to develop a relationship with Oliver. We don't know if she's going to like finally try to rekindle that whole thing with her ex-boyfriend who was killed. Is he going to be resurrected, which he was in Vigilante, obviously. We didn't know like if she was going to just totally replace Laurel in every single way. We didn't know what was gonna happen with her, because she seemed to just be another person on the team, and this gives her that edge that allows us to see a different dynamic to the character. So as annoying as she was, it did do a justice as far as how the story was supposed to flow. So going forward here, we saw her vengeance again as she was speaking with Oliver, and she even got to the point where, she felt like Oliver was threatening her, and she said, you shouldn't, she said something about him threatening her, and Oliver clearly was trying to save her from losing herself in the process of her wanting to kill Laurel, and she just wasn't getting it.
No.
Like, she was so hell-bent on that and then how mad she is at Oliver because of all the stuff that's happened in season 6 between Oliver's team and then the terrific Canary team and everything that's been going on with them. She's just been like so driven by all of that she's not even thinking clearly at this point.
No, and I think Oliver was really trying to help her because he didn't want her to go through the things that he had went through. So I think he was really trying to like help her to see like, hey, there's other ways to like handle this and handle your anger. I understand that you're like upset and you're hurt, but Oliver was really trying to help her. I didn't take that what he was saying as, oh, you better not do this or else. It wasn't like that. It was more so like he was coming from a place where he had been there, because I mean, Oliver's been through a lot and he's been in her shoes like so many times. I mean, so I feel like he was really trying to help her, and she just was not. She was just so stuck on her vengeance, she wasn't even trying to hear what he had to say for real.
Yeah. So, moving on, we see a scene where Quentin Lance is in a cabin, and Black Siren is there. And let me just make my comment here. Quentin's obsession with Black Siren has been just weird. It's like he's like has like some type of weird secret incestuous relationship or something with Laura, where he's like, oh, like she's the other woman or something. He's hiding her up in the cabin. He's like, oh, my daughter, like, oh, and she's like, oh, daddy, like, save me. It's just weird. It's this whole thing is just getting weird for me. So basically, he has her up basically in the cabin to basically save her, because he actually cares about her. And he's actually one of the only characters who does care about her at this point, other than, I think, Oliver at this point secretly. Everybody else pretty much is not really feeling this Black Siren character because, I mean, think about it. She's killed people. I mean, she was a mercenary, and she was ready to kill this whole team when she was, like, siding with Adrian Chase / Prometheus from last season. So, I mean, it's understandable that nobody liked her, but it's obvious that Quentin cares about her, and to a certain extent, she kind of cares about him, too. You can kind of see it a little bit in just the way that she acts. But like I said, I think that this whole Black Siren Quentin Lance thing is really cool because it does actually give him something to do while he's still there. Like, they've been for at least 5, 6, 7,000 seasons have been like making this whole portrayal of Quentin being a drunk who was so upset by one daughter dying, then another daughter dying, then oh my God, woe is me. I'm going to pretend like this daughter who I ain't never seen before a day in my life actually is my actual daughter because she looks like my daughter. Like, it's just this whole thing. I think that it's good because it kind of gives him something to do, but I think it also kind of adds on to that whole Black Siren dynamic, and how her character was so much different than Laurel's Black Canary. Like Laurel as Black Siren is so much more like devious, and she kind of has like, she's a little feisty and she's a little dark. And that's different than the Laurel that we seen before, where she was very straight laced. Like, there wasn't, she didn't really, she was like kind of like a goody two shoes is the best way to describe it. And it's just different.
I think it's good too because it shows like that he really does care about Laurel, and he really is trying to help her. Like, he's seeing the good in her, even though everybody else is kind of just like, oh, she's evil. Like, he's actually willing to give her a chance, and I think that's like a really great thing. I feel like their relationship is really gonna like expand because of that. Because he actually cares about her. He's not trying to like use her or anything like that. He really cares about building a relationship with her. So I think that's a really good thing to do too. So
yeah, kind of moving forward from there. There's a scene in Curtis slash Mr. Terrific, Wild Dog slash Renee, and Dinah are in an alley, and there's a hologram of Laurel that's being shown from the T-spheres. And let me just say, the T-spheres are really cool. Like, to me, I think that is my favorite like tech item so far in the whole I would say in the whole Arrowverse, but definitely in the show Arrow is definitely my favorite. Like, it's just really cool, and it shows you how much of a genius Curtis is. And how that rivals Felicity. So I think that's really cool. And I think we're going to kind of see that throughout the season, like, now that these teams are kind of broken up. It is his actual genius. But yeah, I just thought the T-spheres are pretty cool there. So again, there's more talk about, there's more kind of like debate within that newer team, the terrific Canary team, where Dinah is still talking about at this point, trying to get her vengeance on Laurel still. And Wild Dog kind of reminds her like, yo, the whole purpose of this is to get the money for the city. And Dinah basically says, like, she's gonna do it in her own way. She's gonna, she has her ways of trying to get it out of her. And I think like it was Curtis that said something like, are you talking about torture? Like, this girl has gotten to the point where she's almost taken it to like a sick level. Like, she's willing to torture this girl. So to kill two birds with one stone, to sit there and say, oh, I'm trying to get the money just like you guys are, but in the meantime I'm going to torture this girl because of what she did to my man. Now, mind you, I mean, let's be real here. A lot of you all probably be just like Dinah. Like, a lot of you women would be just like Dinah if someone killed your man. So let's not like act like that's not the truth. But the fact of the matter is that she has a duty for basically her being a superhero in the city, and then for her, being a part of the government to a certain extent. Like, she has a duty to make sure that she fulfills that by getting the money, and she really was putting her own personal affairs first. And she was so driven and blinded by it. Like, to me, I think this whole episode was about her being so blinded on that team. So she was like one big part of it, and you can see that, and you can see the doubt also in her other teammates' eyes at that point.
Yeah.
Now, kind of going forward, we kind of go back to like the cabin scene, and talks with Laurel and Quentin still, and things like that. And again, let me just say, I love this dark, feisty Laurel. Like, I love this Laurel better than the other one. The other one was just bland and she was dry. I mean, she was always a pretty girl. Like, let's not get that wrong. But the thing is that this really kind of took her character to another level, because she was pretty, she was sexy, she has like this kind of like feisty demeanor. She's says whatever she wants. She kind of like sickly plays on that whole Ollie thing, and like when I guess like she found out that they were trying to play her basically, and like and she plays on that daddy thing as well too, and I think that makes her character like really cool. If anything, I think that Black Siren may possibly have been the best thing this season thus far, besides Ricardo Diaz's plan that we ain't know about. She probably was the best thing I think about this season. So, I guess like kind of like piggybacking off of what was going on. I do love the quote that Quentin said when he was speaking to um, Laurel when they were in the cabin, and basically, he identified that her issue was not having the proper father figure in her life, and she was always trying to find that in another man. So he referenced Zoom from The Flash. He referenced Prometheus, and he referenced Caden James because she literally was a mercenary for all three of those people. So almost to pretend as if they were father figures that she was following behind. And I never really thought about that until he said that. But after that I was like, wow, like the character depth here is just so solid, and then it adds more depth to her character. So that's why I said Black Canary. I keep saying Canary. Black Siren is a really cool character, and I think that is what the what was needed for Laurel really in this series, honestly.
And I thought it was good too, like Nick was saying, he talked about that whole like daddy thing and the daddy issues and everything like that. And then he said too, it's been a long time since you got to decide what you wanted to do and who you wanted to be, which was really good too, because I mean she really was always kind of told what she should and should not be doing by other people, kind of like demanding her. So Quentin was like, basically letting her know like, hey, I'm here for you, I want to help you. And even like, when they did end up meeting up and or whatever, like he was basically saying like, I want to help you, like if you want me to be there, I'll be there. And even when he was talking like earlier in the episode, because she was like, oh, you got me trapped here in this cabin, he was like, well, no, you can leave at any time. I don't want you to feel like he's of course I want you to stay, but you need to be able to decide for yourself. I thought that was a really good thing too, because it got her a chance to kind of feel where he was coming from and kind of let her know that he really like loves her. He really cares about her like a lot. So I thought that was a really good thing as well.
Right. So kind of continuing on, again, we're back to a scene in the Terrific / Canary Cave, and Oliver and his team end up barging in there, which was totally ridiculous. We knew that this was going to start something. We knew that, and we also knew that this was nothing more than a justification of what the other team, like the newer team, had issues with. This was just more so proving their point that like they couldn't trust that they couldn't trust him, and he didn't trust them. It was further justification to that, and the whole altercation was just going to do nothing but explode at that point, because they came in there trying to accuse that new team. Oliver and his team were accusing that new team of basically harboring Black Siren and all this other stuff. And so like I think like it added again more conflict to the story, which was cool, but it was just kind of like, man, like it allowed you to at least see both sides of the story a little bit, but it just was kind of ridiculous, and it got childish to a certain point.
It was very childish, and it was very irritating, because it's like you two teams are fighting against each other but not realizing the biggest problem. The biggest problem, like I keep saying, is finding this $70 million for the city, for the funds. And you guys are so busy fighting each other and being childish and everything else that you don't even see the bigger picture. And then for Oliver's team to just barge in there, I mean, that was completely out of order. I mean, I get it. You may not trust the Terrific whatever cave, and that's fine. But for you just to like come up in there and do a search and everything like that, and then like him and like Renee get into this little like thing. He's like, don't turn your back on me. And he did that just to kind of like get Oliver to kind of, get all upset with him so he could put the chip on him or whatever so they could track him. But it was kind of just like, why is all of this even happening?
That was so stupid.
I don't get the whole two-team thing. I think it's very dumb. And I don't even understand. I mean, I get it. Things happen, and the trust was kind of lost. But it's like, at the end of the day, y'all not seeing all of this stuff that this villain is doing because y'all are so busy, like, going head to head with each other. And it's like, we're trying to get $70 million. And you guys are ruining that, like, for real. So I was just really irritated at this point, because I was like, both the teams were, like, doing stuff. I can't even just say it was, like, the Green Arrows team. It was both the teams that was doing dumb stuff, because they shouldn't have barged in. Other teams shouldn't have did the tracking thing. It was just like a whole bunch of like, why is this happening type thing.
It was a whole bunch of dumb stuff.
It was just stupid. I was just like, You guys are not even focusing. And then Dinah's focused on her revenge the whole episode. And I'm just like, girl, it's like with so much other stuff going on right now to be focusing on your revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And I mean, like, let's make an even bigger point here. And this is like, me defending like Oliver's team. Them newbies knew damn well they could not beat Oliver Queen in a fight.
No.
Come on, let's be real. Oliver didn't even need Diggle there, and he sure as hell didn't need Felicity there. Felicity can't do nothing. So like, so that's what I'm saying. Oliver alone could have took all three of them.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. Like that to me, that didn't make any sense.
I just don't like what they're doing with the two teams. I just think it's stupid.
I think it's annoying for the fact that we got to watch it and stomach it. I just think that it adds for like a different story that in a different dynamic we haven't seen. Like I said, the problem though is that like I think if they would have done something like this, and this is just me hypothesizing, if they may have done this maybe like season 7 or 8 or something like that, and they would have said, oh, these two teams had split up, it would have made more sense to me. And here's why. Because at that point, they could have built those teams up where, like, one, their fighting skills were a lot better. And two, like, we could have, like, grown attached to both teams at this point to see that split. And we're like, oh, my God, who do we like more? Right. Obviously, we're going to be gunning for Oliver because we've been with him for pretty much 6 seasons. And Dinah only been there, like, 2. Curtis has been there 3. And Renee's only been there 2. So, like, at that point, like, we really haven't really, gotten fully attached to, that team. So now we're like, boo, this sucks because we ain't really seen too much of them. So, I mean, it's like, whatever.
And then also, the whole purpose of them, having another team and branching off was to be different from Oliver's team. And I'm not seeing much of a difference. I mean, they even kind of talked about that in the episode,
especially with Dinah.
Because he was like, you sound like Oliver. Like, it's been, like, then a lot of times they, like, talked about that you sound like Oliver, or this is something that Oliver would say. So it's like, how are you two even really different? You both crossed the line with each other multiple times. I get it. Oliver and them, they were wrong for, tracking you guys. And when they should have just, like, handled that whole situation better. But it was like, I mean, y'all kind of broke the trust too. So it's kind of like they both was wrong. So it's like, I mean, I get it. Yeah, both did things that were kind of like, cross the line type thing.
I like your hands.
But they both did things that kind of like cross the line or whatever. But I just think like, I'm like, I don't see a difference between the two teams. And the whole purpose of them doing another team was to be different from Oliver's team. And they're not. So I don't really get it.
Yeah, I think the next thing they kind of like showed even in the show was that they kind of showed this whole care that Oliver still kind of had or protectiveness he had for Laurel, and they kept kind of like just pressing that button over and over again, like in the show, basically saying, would you have have been this protective about Dinah not slaughtering Laurel basically if it wasn't Laurel herself. They kept pressing on that dynamic because first of all, the other team had done it, like Curtis and them's team had done it, and then Diggle had that conversation with Oliver and had said that same thing as well too, to kind of question it, and I mean, like, it's obvious that Oliver still has some care for for this Black Siren character because of the fact that she is very resemblant of Laurel. And it's also too, I mean, I think it's a mix of stuff. I think it was a mix of the fact that he didn't want Dinah to lose herself, but then it's also the fact that he sees Laurel sitting there, so he doesn't really want her killed. But I guarantee you, if that was Damien Dark copy or whoever, that he probably would took his head off himself.
Almost definitely.
So I think there is some kind of type of favoritism there a little bit when you think about it, but
I think it is too, because I mean with Laura, I mean like he was like in love with Laura, and Laura was in love with him. So every time like it's like that person that you like are in love with and say they die, and then you keep like somebody else comes back from like another world or another Earth or whatever like that, like this happened, and then you have to see this person in a different like light type thing. So you're like, of course you want to still see that person as you always did. So I mean, I get why it's like some type of favoritism towards her, because he's like, I still see my Laurel, and he probably sees her like probably like dying over and over again every time he sees like the Laurel that we see now. So I mean, I get it, and he probably sees like, oh well, maybe like it'll be like different and whatnot. So
I just had to say, I love how you did that. You pushed the phone to the side a little bit. That was supposed to silence the phone. I'm just gonna take it. I'm just gonna slide it. That's gonna silence it a little bit more. And we all heard that little
I'm gonna
beep.
turn it down.
We heard that little beep. He was like, "Let me slide it. That'll calm it down a little bit, I guess." I didn't press no buttons. I'll just slide it. Anyway, so going back. So basically, like in this episode again, I think I kind of said this. I love like this Laurel's like sadistic side, just playing on this whole daddy aspect, and when she overhears Thea's loud ass like barging up in there, which I honestly, in my opinion, she was the start of the issues with, I guess, like the end of this episode, because there was no reason why Thea should have been, first of all, peeking up in the window like, "Oh, what you doing? What you doing?"
That was just
and then
creepy. First of all,
that's creepy. And then she just barged up in there talking about some, "What are you doing? Where? Yeah. Why are you doing this, Thea?" First of all, Thea has been so expendable the last 2 seasons. The only thing that Thea has been doing is being a secretary and saying that she wanted to take a break. And remember before she was like, "Oh, because back in season 4, oh, I must stop, fighting and doing what I'm doing and take a break because of Laurel." So everybody was hopping on the because of Laurel train. Oliver, I can understand.
yeah.
Even Diggle, I was like, okay, you've seen her a couple times here or there. But then Thea was like, "Oh, because of Laurel, I just can't fight anymore. I just can't stop it."
I'm like, were y'all even that close?
They really weren't. They really weren't.
I mean, I get it.
Really,
she's part of the team, but
in my personal opinion, Laurel was closer with Nissa Al Ghul than she was with Thea. That's just my opinion.
Agree.
But the thing about it is that Thea has been on a train track of being expendable since season 4. Yeah. Between her not taking up the Speedy mantle, because unfortunately we had to lose one of the best characters pretty much in the show, Roy Harper. Even though he is going to be coming back in the episode, which is really cool. In the next episode, he's actually shown in the preview.
Oh, is he?
Yes, he is. Yeah,
I'm excited for that because he was like,
he was one of my favorite characters. And I think that the guy who they got to play him does an awesome job. He's a great actor, first of all. And second, like if you ever look at like Young Justice, he actually looks like the dude of Young Justice. It's almost uncanny. So like to me, like I think that losing him was already a big loss because he was Speedy at first and they turned him into Arsenal, which was really silly because he wasn't Arsenal till way later in the comics, but we won't even touch on that. We already know that they changed stuff up from the comics to the show, but I just wanted to make that point. Then they made the end up being the next Speedy. Cool. I wasn't really complaining. I wasn't arguing. Nothing like that. But Thea herself as a character has proven how expendable she has been, between her taking a break because of Laurel, just jumping on the because of Laurel train, and then because of the fact that she wants to be a secretary now, and then all this other stuff. To me, like, Thea had no reason to go up in there because she ruined that whole thing, because Black Siren easily could hear what Quentin and her were even talking about, because Quentin was even like, I'm not trying to, make her believe that, I'm in this because of the whole money thing. I'm trying to, kind of ease into it. He was more worried about her, what was going on with her.
Right.
So she heard that whole thing, of course, and at that point, her thing was like, "Yo, chick, like, first of all, I can hear you. You better get Oliver on the phone and tell him basically that if y'all don't find a way basically to get me up out this city, so your crazy little friend who's going on a rampage doesn't kill me, you're not gonna find out about this money." Right. Because the thing is that Black Siren knew all about the money, where the money was at, and the whereabouts and stuff. And so basically, she used that kind of as a crutch to blackmail basically Oliver and the team, and even the other team to a certain extent now, because they were about to be in on this whole thing as well. So basically, stuff happens where Oliver ends up showing up, and this thing is slowly escalating. We can see it escalating, and then Oliver basically comes up with this idea of an escape plan of how to get Black Siren pretty much out of the country. And I think Quentin agrees to basically go with her, and and basically tells her that if she doesn't want him in her life, then and wants him there with her, then he'll just leave and stuff like that. And she makes a little snarky comment about getting your son blocked because she always wanted to live somewhere sunny or something like that. And so they end up getting up and they end up leaving basically, and then here comes the other team.
Well, before that, because remember the team had tracked because they had lost
Well,
the
of course,
tracker.
yeah.
They lost the tracker like when
Mm-hmm.
they were like trying to like follow them to where they were going to meet with
Mm-hmm.
Laurel. So they, make it all dramatic, and Dinah's like walking up, and then she steps on the tracking device. Which, first of all, I liked her boots. I just wanted to point that out. Her boots was cute.
I didn't even notice.
I noticed the boots. I've seen the boots. I said, look, I was like, oh, that's cute. But anyways, so they lost the tracker.
Got from Charleroi, huh?
Probably. I mean, I don't know. They were cute, but they lost the tracker. So they're now like they're sitting like, oh, how are we gonna track them now? Now we don't know what to do. They threw our bug away like it was nothing. And then Kurt is like, well, I have another way that we can track them, but it's gonna hurt John. And he's like, well, we'll do whatever this. And he's like, no, it's really gonna hurt John. So basically, he targeted the like implant that was in his arm, which was so low.
That was the lowest thing
I'm like,
ever.
are you serious? So then like that's how they knew when they were like Oliver's team finally got there with Laurel. That's how they knew that the other team knew where they were at now because they had tracked his arm. And I'm just like, seriously. So once they did that, I'm sitting there like, this deal would have worked out had y'all not interfered. I'm like, now they gotta hurry up and get out of there because y'all trying to come up in there and kill Laurel. So it kind of just like made everything escalate after that, and just like, what the heck is going on? So then that goes back to what Nick was saying, how now they were like trying to like get Laura out of there, and they have like they're sitting all like and they're all arguing back and forth, and Felicity's like, I can't believe you do that to John or whatever, and they're just arguing, and I'm just like, this is so stupid and childish. This is what I'm thinking the whole time. Like, this is so dumb. Like, why are you guys doing all of this?
And you hear Oliver's like, they crossed the line first, man. And remember, he had made a little comment
yeah,
too.
I remember that.
I mean, they did, but I mean, like,
but y'all didn't make that no better. Y'all could have handled that situation so, like, all this stuff could have been avoided. I get it. They crossed the line first with Renee and him, like, basically saying, he had to he had to testify against Oliver but at the end of the day, they should have figured out why did he do that, which was for his daughter. But I'm like, okay, if Oliver was in that situation, he would have did the same thing for his son. And he even said that in that one episode that we had watched for that. So I'm like, y'all should have handled that better and had a meeting and talked about, hey, we were told that somebody like crossed us. Who is it? Because at that point, at least y'all letting them know instead of y'all tracking them and losing their trust. I said, y'all wasn't right either. Y'all didn't handle that very well. So this whole fight scene was just ridiculous. And I'm just like, why is it even happening? Like, I was like very disgusted, and I was like, this is childish. This is like, why are we doing all of this?
Again, and I think I said this before, this whole new team, like, I didn't understand this whole you wanting to fight Oliver thing. Like, regardless, like, why would you try to fight this man? I mean, think about it. This man has taken down the Dark Archer. This man has taken down Slade Wilson and all those Miracle Soldier peoples. He killed Ra's al Ghul. Yep. He killed Damien Dark. This man is, well, I'm not going to say he took down Prometheus because Prometheus, first of all, killed himself. And Prometheus wasn't a fighting challenge because he was getting that butt whooped pretty much the whole season.
Easily.
But the thing is that, like, he took down so many people.
And you really thought that you had a chance.
You really thought the combination of you all had a chance against this man.
It was two of them. It was 2 against 1. And Oliver was still tagging both.
Ra's al Ghul alone was a bad boy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He was a bad boy. And, like, he took him down.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, like, to me, like, I just did not understand the thought processes of this team at this point. By the way, where is Ragman? Where is Ragman? Can he make his rags work again? Ragman was overpowered, but his overpoweredness made him great.
Ragman.
Where is Ragman? I really want to know.
He was a beast.
He was a beast. I'm telling you, Ragman was OP. Ragman's rags made him a beast. Like, he needs to come back. He needs to be on Team Arrow because Ragman actually was one of my favorite new recruits. Like, when they actually had them, have recruits and stuff like that. Of course, I hated Evelyn, especially what she did. Renee was okay. Dinah was cool. Curtis couldn't fight, but he was cool. But again, like, Ragman, like, was just OP. I just want to know where he was at. I just thought I'd make that point. Anyway, going forward, so as the story goes on, Dinah basically tries to kill Laurel at this point. So she basically finds Quentin. They're in the forest, of course, like doing whatever, and trying to run away. And she attacks Quentin. Basically tells him to get out the way. Well, more so hits him, I guess is probably a better way to put it. She basically just tore him up. And then she was ready to kill Laurel at this point, which is just ridiculous because they had it pretty much in the bag. They were going to get her out of the state or out of the country basically.
Yeah. And they would have had the money.
Which
was the whole objective of the episode.
And Dinah still had to go on her quest for vengeance, which totally just squashed that whole thing. Because at this point, she even got to the point where she was sitting, was about to do the same thing to her that, that Laurel had done to her man, basically, to Vigilante. And she, at this point, you can even see, like, the kind of like the emotion even in Laurel's face, because she even was like, yo, I'm sorry, because really the bottom line is that, like, she probably, first of all, she didn't want to do it.
She did.
And second of all, she only did it because of Caden James, and he pretty much told her that she basically did not need to do anything to make him question her loyalty. So that's the reason why she had done it in the first place. But I think having Curtis basically come up and say, like, yo, like, Dinah, basically, like, don't do this. This is not justice.
Yeah.
I think that was needed, and that basically put a halt to all of the nonsense and the tomfoolery that Dinah had been doing pretty much the whole episode. But like I said, while Curtis was giving that speech, he and Renee were both holding L's, because that fight that they did with Oliver was just ridiculous. They got their asses whooped, both of them, badly. So to me, like, while he was giving that speech, he was holding the L up like this, and then Renee was holding it on his chest. That's why he was bleeding. The L was piercing his chest.
Yeah, so, and then also, like, it ended up stopping. They ended up stop fighting because they seen that Renee was, like, hurt and stuff like that, and he was, like, coughing up blood and stuff like that. So then they're like, at that point, the whole fight scene kind of, like, just stopped, because they're like, we need to get Renee to the hospital because something's going on. And he's injured.
And all that happens, and guess what? Laurel gets away in the big scuffle. Wow, what a surprise. So anyway, Renee getting hurt, and Dinah I guess, like, basically kind of getting back straight laced again and not acting like a freaking maniac like she did the whole episode. Kind of was a pretty good storyline dynamic. So I really appreciated that they did that, and I think that they transported him to somewhere outside of Star City. I don't know if that means they're going to take him off the show. I don't know if that means he's going to take a temporary break. I don't know what that means, but it was at least interesting for them to, kind of do something like that, to, one, get Dinah back on track, and for them to kind of, like, just see on, like, with a level head. But
and I was gonna say too, like, I thought it was, him getting injured was, like, that was kind of, like, messed up. But what I did not like is when, like, Felicity and Diggle came to the hospital and was, like, asking about Renee. And then, like, it was, like, this whole, like, interaction, like, oh, like, we're done with you, blah, blah, and don't ask about him. And it's like, okay, first of all, y'all didn't ask about Quentin or Diggle, and y'all basically attacked them first before Renee was even injured. First of all, Diggle was the one that was hurting the most, because y'all was trying to use his arm to track where they was at. And nobody asked about how Diggle was doing. You didn't ask about Quentin, who was laying there on the ground, on, like, covered in some leaves and stuff. Nobody asked about if he was okay. And then they come there to at least check on Renee, trying to put the differences aside. You're like, oh, well, just don't worry about blah, blah. And it's like, seriously? Okay. Now, that kind of just made me upset, because I'm like, well, y'all didn't ask about how other people was doing. Like, y'all were just sitting there just like, oh yeah, whatever. And I thought that was kind of, like, messed up, because I'm like, I get it, Renee was in the hospital, but at the end of the day, when Oliver and Renee were fighting, Oliver told Renee multiple times to stand down, and he basically did not even want to fight Renee. And it was very obvious. He kept saying, like, stand down, stand down. He's like, no, and he kept on coming at him. So I'm like, at the end of the day, you knew he was gonna get hurt. And think about it, he was already injured from before. So I think that was kind of like what happened. I think he got injured in the same spot. I'm thinking that's kind of what happened. But I was just like, you knew something was going to happen. And clearly Oliver was not trying to hurt you. He was trying to, like, just, push you back and stop you. So it was just like, that kind of made me upset, because I'm like, nobody was concerned about the other two people. At least they came and checked on him.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all didn't even ask, oh, well, how's Quentin and Diggle? How are you doing? I know I
Yeah.
tracked you. And even like when they were fighting, like I think Curtis made a comment to Diggle like, "Oh, does it still hurt?" or so. I'm like, that's just so like rude and disrespectful. Like, why would you say something like that? Like, you know that this man is hurting, and you just gonna make it seem like it ain't even about nothing. That you just use his arm as a tracker.
Yeah, honestly, I was pretty annoyed.
Yeah, that was just irritating.
Yeah, I was. But come on, let's be real here. How many times have people been saying, "Oh, we're never gonna we're never gonna talk. We're never gonna do this again. We're never gonna do that."
And
they
again. End up doing
and
it.
They end up like being cool again because Diggle was talking about how Oliver severed his relationship with him.
Get out of my head. I was just thinking that, like literally just like, thinking that.
with the whole like the whole Ra's al Ghul thing when he was trying to be the next demon's head.
Mm-hmm. But then they ended up. I mean, of course, it took a minute to get them back.
Took a little minute.
It took a minute
because in season 5 they was just just hounding Oliver, and I'm like, seriously, y'all. I think you all need to chill.
Right.
But kind of like going back. Did I say 5? I think it was 4. That's right. I think that was season 4.
I think it was. Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, so going forward, let's just talk about the end scene pretty much. Laurel finds some random black dude, and like he basically is like, oh, kind of concerned, like, you look hurt, are you okay, yada 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 yada. And so then basically she kind of acts strange, and she acts as though she almost doesn't remember her life as Black Siren. He asks her name. She says, "I'm Laurel Lance, and I was kidnapped after like 2 years."
Yeah, like,
and I'm like, "What? Like, what do you mean kidnapped after 2 years?" Like, I didn't know if it was like a ploy, like she was pretending to be a Laurel Lance and faking, her name to possibly do something very evil. I didn't know if she was really not remembering her life as Black Siren. I don't know what happened. Like, I mean, somebody out there probably has some crazy fan theory like, oh, they resurrected Laurel and put Black Siren in the grave. Somebody gonna say something stupid like that. But the point is that regardless, I had no idea what that meant. To me, it just seemed like she didn't remember her life as Black Siren. But I don't know what's to come from that, and I think that's going to be pretty interesting to see next episode if they touch on it. I know this next episode is going to be very heavily Roy and Thea influenced. I get it, but I'm hoping that they do touch on that, because that, to me, that was the most interesting part.
It was very interesting because it put a lot of questions. You might be like, wait, so what happened? And it didn't seem as if she was trying, because at first I thought, oh, maybe she's trying to like get close to him, maybe take his car and go away, but she wasn't doing that at all. So it's kind of just like, okay, so like what's going on? Like, did she really just like forget like who she was for real, or are they trying to bring like this Laurel Lance like back? Like, I didn't know what was going on with it, but I think it's gonna be very interesting to see how that's gonna play out. And I mean, if they do it like where she forgets that she was even Black Siren, is that okay? Is that gonna change y'all whole like dynamic relationship between like her and Dinah? Like, is that not gonna be like, oh wow, she really doesn't remember like who she was? Like, maybe she was like kind of like possessed or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm just really interested to see how they're gonna like play on that. I think it's like a really interesting thing that they had at the end. So
yeah. Who knows? But kind of going forward, the things that I pretty much hope to see is, I hope to continue to see this kind of like dark edge that they have for like Black Siren. That's the character I feel that's been the most interesting consistently for season 6.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to see more with Ricardo Diaz, because that dude is connected. I want to see so much more with him, because he really has been doing a pretty good job keeping a low profile, but really being this main villain that we haven't really seen a lot of. So I want to see more of him in that aspect. I don't necessarily want to see more of his fighting, because I literally saw him in a match like fighting with Diggle and he struggled with Diggle.
Yeah, he struggled.
And if he struggled with Diggle,
he can't touch Oliver.
He's not going to touch Oliver. So I mean, like, to me, like, I feel like I almost want to kind of like see his connections, or if he was struggling with Diggle like that, hope maybe he was holding back. I don't know. But the point is that, like, I want to see more from Ricardo Diaz at that point. I am excited to see Roy Harper back on the show. I think that's really awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it is, like, a couple episodes or whatever, I'm really excited to see that. I'm also excited to see Thea go with him if he does go. But anyway, so...
And I think it's going to be interesting, too. Like, I really want to see more about this villain and kind of, like, figure out, like, what is... Like, why is, like, all of this stuff happening with Oliver? Why is he targeting Oliver? Why is he trying to, like, blackmail Oliver and stuff like that? I think they had like a scene too, and they were basically, it was a police captain talking to some guy, and I don't remember what the guy's name was. We never seen him before, and he was like saying like how he needs like this information to like really like bury Queen, and I'm like, what information? Why are you trying to bury Queen? Like, what's going on? I want to know like what is the reasoning behind why they're trying to bury Queen? What did Queen do? Because at first it was like, oh, Queen killed, you know, what's his name, Kaden James' son, which we knew that was not the case. So now it's like, okay, so why are you guys targeting Queen? That's the big question mark. Like, what is the whole reasoning behind it? Why are you trying to target him and other people or whatever? So yeah, I'm kind of interested to kind of see like how that's gonna like, you know, play out and kind of learn more about our villain and kind of the backstory of him. So yeah, and to see all of his connections, because he has a lot of connections. So I want to see who else he's connected to as well. So
Right. So that's pretty much the show for today, guys. That's all we got for you. If you like what you saw today, then please click that subscribe button.
please subscribe.
It is the red button below the video.
Subscribe,
Yep. Yeah, it's the red button below the video, like I was saying. But anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed the show. There's gonna be a lot more to come. We'll have
definitely
some more like videos just talking about a couple different, you know, episodes of shows and things like that. And you know, we may do some trailer reviews and things like that, and just kind of give our opinions on that. And again, like, this will not be the last that you see us. It's a lot of interesting content out there and a lot of things to kind of talk about. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will talk to you later. So Team Magnet TV, we are out.
Bye, guys.
See y'all later.